The Miller family's car rumbled to a stop, the engine's hum fading into the stillness of the countryside. Dust swirled around the tires, creating a ghostly haze that seemed to dance in the late afternoon sun. Their new home stood before them, imposing and silent, its grandeur marred by years of neglect and overgrown ivy. A Victorian mansion, full of promise and, unknowingly, fear. The dark windows seemed to watch them, hiding secrets within. Excitement buzzed in the air, mingling with the unsettling feeling of being watched. The family exchanged hopeful glances, trying to ignore the creeping unease. Little Sarah, clutching her teddy bear tightly, was the first to voice her concern, her small voice trembling. "It looks like the house is in my scary stories, Daddy," she whispered, her eyes wide with fear and curiosity. Her father chuckled, dismissing her childish fears with a gentle pat on her head. "It's just an old house, sweetheart, nothing to be afraid of." The movers unloaded the family's belongings, their heavy steps echoing in the cavernous house. Each thud seemed to reverberate through the empty rooms, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Night fell, blanketing the house in an unnerving darkness, punctuated by the chirping of crickets. The moon cast long shadows, making the mansion appear even more foreboding. The Millers settled in, unaware of the mysteries and fears that awaited them in their new home. Days turned into weeks. The family settled in, unpacking boxes and arranging furniture, but something wasn't right. Strange occurrences began. Footsteps echoed on the wooden floors when no one was around. Doors creaked open and slammed shut with no explanation. Sarah's whispers about the house being haunted were met with amused skepticism. Until one evening John, the father, clearly heard a whisper coming from the wall. A cold shiver ran down his spine. He dismissed it as his imagination, but the seed of doubt was sown. The paranormal activity escalated. Objects moved inexplicably. Pictures on the wall tilted at odd angles, as if an unseen hand had adjusted them. The temperature fluctuated drastically, pockets of icy cold air forming in certain rooms. One night, Mary, the mother, woke to a bone-chilling cold. She saw a fleeting shadow disappear around the corner. Her heart pounded in her chest. She couldn't shake off the feeling that they were not alone in the house. Sarah, with her innocent eyes, seemed most attuned to the strange happenings. She spoke of a lady in a white dress she often saw on the landing. The description sent chills down Mary's spine. The previous owner had mentioned an antique wedding dress, now stored in the attic. One afternoon, Mary, filled with a mixture of dread and curiosity, decided to see the dress for herself. As she opened the attic door, a cold gust of wind slammed it shut. Fear, raw and primal, gripped her. She knew then that something was terribly wrong. John, a man of logic and reason, tried to rationalize the events. He refused to believe the house was haunted, but the evidence was mounting, becoming impossible to ignore. The disturbances were growing stronger, bolder. One evening, while having dinner, the chandelier above them began to sway violently. The lights flickered ominously. John watched in disbelief as a vase on the mantel flew across the room, shattering against the wall. His skepticism crumbled. He had to admit something was deeply, terrifyingly wrong with their new home. Driven by fear and a desperate need for answers, John decided to investigate the attic. He had heard strange noises coming from above for weeks, whispers in the dead of night that sent chills down his spine. The mystery gnawed at him, leaving him restless and anxious. He cautiously climbed the creaking steps, each step seeming to echo the beating of his heart. The wooden stairs groaned under his weight, as if warning him to turn back. But John was determined. He had to know what was hidden up there. The air grew colder, heavy with a palpable sense of dread. A thick layer of dust covered everything, and the dim light from his flashlight barely pierced the darkness. Shadows danced on the walls, creating eerie shapes that seemed to move on their own. The attic was dark, dusty, and filled with forgotten relics of the past. Old furniture, boxes, and cobwebs cluttered the space, making it difficult to navigate. Each item seemed to hold a story, a piece of history long forgotten. His eyes fell upon an old ornate trunk tucked away in a corner. It was unlike anything else in the attic, with intricate carvings that hinted at its age and significance. The trunk seemed to call out to him, urging him to uncover its secrets. He knelt, his fingers tracing the intricate carvings. The wood was cold and rough under his touch, and he could feel the craftsmanship that had gone into creating it. His heart raced as he wondered what could be inside. As he lifted the heavy lid, a musty odor wafted up, and inside, he found a leather-bound diary, its pages brittle with age. The smell of old paper and ink filled the air, and he could almost hear the whispers of the past. It belonged to a woman named Emily, a previous resident of the house. The name was elegantly inscribed on the cover, and as he opened the diary, he felt a connection to her. The pages were filled with her thoughts, dreams, and secrets waiting to be discovered. John knew that this diary held the key to the mysteries of the attic and perhaps even the house itself. Emily's diary chronicled a tale of love, betrayal, and tragedy. Each page was a window into her soul, revealing the depth of her emotions and the intensity of her experiences. The ink, now faded with time, still carried the weight of her sorrow and the echoes of her joy. She had been a young bride, deeply in love with her husband who was tragically lost at sea. Their love story was the talk of the town, a beacon of hope and romance. But fate had other plans, and the sea, with its unforgiving waves, claimed her beloved, leaving her heartbroken and adrift. Her grief consumed her, leading her to take her own life within the walls of the house. The once vibrant home, filled with laughter and dreams, became a mausoleum of her sorrow. Every corner of the house echoed with her cries, and the walls seemed to absorb her pain, becoming a silent witness to her tragic end. The townsfolk, whispering tales of a woman in white, believed her spirit to be trapped within the house, forever mourning her lost love. They spoke of sightings, of a ghostly figure wandering the halls, her presence felt but never fully seen. The house, now abandoned, stood as a grim reminder of the love and loss that once dwelled within. John's blood ran cold as he read the last entry in the diary. The words, filled with raw emotion, painted a vivid picture of Emily's final moments. He could almost hear her voice trembling with despair as she penned her last thoughts. The weight of her sorrow was palpable, and he felt an overwhelming sense of empathy for her plight. Emily's final words, filled with despair and a longing for her lost love, sent shivers down his spine. She wrote of dreams shattered, of a future that would never be, and of a love that transcended even death. Her words were a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of love. He now understood the sorrow that clung to the house, the restless spirit that haunted its halls. The air seemed thicker, the shadows darker, as if the house itself was mourning. John felt a chill run through him, knowing that Emily's spirit was still there, bound by her love and her grief, forever a part of the house's tragic history. Section 8. The Night of Terror. That night, the paranormal activity reached a fever pitch. The house seemed to tremble with rage. Objects flew across rooms, crashing against walls. Sarah screamed in terror as the ghostly figure of a woman in white appeared in her room. The family huddled together, paralyzed with fear as the house seemed to close in on them. John, Mary, and Sarah, witnesses to the raw power of a vengeful spirit, knew they had to escape. Section 9. No escape. Panic set in. John frantically searched for the car keys, his hands shaking uncontrollably, but they were gone, vanished into thin air. The phone lines were dead, the power out. They were trapped. The temperature plummeted, the air thick with a chilling presence. A cold wind whipped through the house, extinguishing candles, plunging them into darkness. The ghostly figure of Emily appeared before them, her sorrowful eyes filled with an icy rage. Section 10. Abandoning the dream. John knew they couldn't stay. Gathering his family close, he led them on a desperate dash through the darkness. They ran blindly, the house seemingly alive with malevolent energy. Finally, they burst through the front door and into the night. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of the neighbor's porch. Breathless, terrified, they looked back at the house, its silhouette stark against the moonlit sky. The windows were dark, the house eerily silent, as if it had already forgotten them. Section 11. The Unanswered Questions. The Miller family never returned to the house. They left behind their belongings, their dreams, and a part of themselves. The house stood empty, a testament to the tragic tale of Emily, and a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most beautiful facades. The experience left an indelible mark on the family. They carried with them the chilling memories of the haunted house next door, a constant reminder of the unseen forces that shape our world and the mysteries that remain unsolved.